Mm.
It might not be to you or to other people, but I know it as a medicine food.
Okay.
Because I know that it's going to heal certain parts of me.
Right.
And if I had stomach problems, I knew that I should drink beer, and beer healed me. And recently, my boyfriend and I were out, I would say about 6 months ago. I used to have a serious vomiting problem because I don't know, I can't digest, especially if it has fat or oil. I couldn't digest it. So everybody that knew me knew that I'd have to stop my car while I'm driving it and get out, pull to the curb, get out, and go in the back of the car and be sick. So I did this for years. I was always sick. Okay. So, but I found out that if I drank beer, the beer cured that. It stopped that, and I got well. And I didn't do it.
Wow.
So my boyfriend and I were in a Turkish place about 4 or 5 months ago. And I was eating the hummus, the Turkish food.
Yes.
But there was an oil on the table with olives in it. And I dipped a piece of bread into the oil. But it wasn't olive oil. If it were olive oil, I wouldn't have gotten sick. So it was an oil. They had mixed it with some wrong oil or something, and I got sick. And so my boyfriend knows what happens to me. So he saw me go like that, and then he said, "Okay." He ordered beer. He knew what to do. He ordered a beer. They brought the beer over. I drank the beer, and then I was well.
Wow.
So see, for me, it's a medicine food.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was for my dad, but if you could have seen him to this day, you would still be laughing.
Wow.
If you could have seen him when he was coming home on Christmas Day, and he would run forward about 10 steps, then he would fall back about 5.
Wow.
And then he would wind up like this. Yeah.
Now, Morgana has an uncanny ability and energy to just draw anyone into the conversation. Here is Han, engineer of 3E Computer Systems, who was giving his experience on alcohol use, medicinal use, for children who are experiencing upset stomach and diarrhea. Here is Han of 3E.
Chinese, they drink rum.
They drink rum?
Rum, yeah. When the baby always get diarrhea, stuff like that, they let the baby have the rum.
Oh, see that? Yeah,
Rum.
Okay.
Rum,
So that's a medicine food, and that stopped the diarrhea.
Yeah.
So that's a medicine food. Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Wow. That is amazing. Now,
Maybe for Chinese baby, not for me.
Yeah.
now, the passing of a Bowery bum. Why? What made you write that poem?
Well, I got accustomed years ago to seeing what they call the Bowery bums lying on the street, lying in the doorway, and they were obviously homeless. They were all dirty, and they were drunks. And I also, as a social worker, I got a position whereby I had to go to the Greenwich Hotel, which is a hotel on the Bowery, but I didn't go up to the rooms. I sat, and they had a little space for me to sit and interview any clients that I had who were there. And the clients that I interviewed were all recovering. No, some of them had not recovered. They were alcoholics. Anyway, but the greatest people in the world, some great writers and philosophers and all kinds of unusual people. And so that's how I met them. But the Bowery bums, I used to watch what happened to them. And sometimes in the paper it would say that one of the guys had lost his arm because it was winter and it froze and they had to amputate his arm or something, or his foot. And that used to happen to them. It used to be in the paper. And they called them the Bowery bums. So that's what I called them. I didn't say Bowery homeless people. I said the Bowery bums,
Here is Morgana Speakslow reading The Passing of a Bowery Bum.
The Passing of a Bowery Bum. How many summers did he lie, green and curdled, on the steaming street, where hustling feet stepped over and around him, with noses pinched to avoid the stench of something rotten. Sometimes he raised up in Lazarene fashion, stumbling about, a body worn out from the resurrecting, stiff and dark against a backdrop of pale sky with fine ladies passing by. No one thought of the woman who birthed and nurtured him, while balancing the rim, preaching a homespun philosophy from waterlogged scrub knees, prophesizing the outcome of children on the run from gutter-down poverty. We are kin to him, a blood brother baptized in foaming beer, dizzy from life's hard wear, a worshipper of idols, obese and weighted down with coins from lottery winners and promises from penitent sinners. The time will come, he'll blight our view no more, and posterity will not lend its fame to one of some ignoble name. Yet let him expire on that familiar spot where no one will mourn another poor soul torn from the grimy Bowery streets.
Wow, that was amazing. That was amazing.
Yeah?
So, passing of a Bowery bump. What is your view on? I know that you had mentioned that you see alcohol as medicinal. How do you reconcile that fact that alcohol has been a problem for a lot of Native Americans?
Okay. It is said that the Native American, when the white man came here and brought the alcohol, they used the alcohol to really trick the Native American many times into getting, they wanted guns, they wanted his land, and they started to just feed the alcohol to the Native American, who every culture has some sort of an alcohol that it uses. In fact, every indigenous culture started that way, and every culture at one time was indigenous. So everybody had some sort of an alcohol that they used. I don't know what they used it for, maybe in times of stress, or maybe they just liked the taste of it or whatever. But it was the alcohol that the white man brought from Europe that was not, native to the native. So it caused the native to become really like almost crazy in a matter of minutes. They would go absolutely out of their minds in no time. Whereas a lot of the white men could tolerate a whole bunch of it. They could drink a lot of it without going crazy. The native was affected almost immediately. And it was known that, and to this day people know that it does affect them very quickly. Okay. Now, I think that it has some connection to sugar. And the reason why I think this is that the natives in my family, myself included, we have a terrible habit of using a great deal or having the need for sugar. We have a serious addiction, basically, for sugar, for candy, or anything that has sugar in it, but mostly candy, I would say, not necessarily cake. So I have seen members of my family eat so much candy, and I observed that they eat the candy when they can't get the alcohol. And it's like a substitute. And the alcohol does have sugar. It has a lot of sugar. So I put it together and I said, there's something there, or maybe some defects, in the makeup of the native, whereby he doesn't have his insulin or the sugar setup or connection is just not working. It's not functioning properly. So I think that there's a connection to sugar, which causes the native to respond that way. Because I know that I love candy. And I know I had an uncle who, he never lived as an American. He only lived as a native in the woodlands. But in the course of going to the city, along the road and through the pass, through the forest, when he got to the edge, he could do some, there's a boatyard there and a small dock, and they could lift bales and this, that, and the other, and packages, and they could make a couple of dollars, and they would get paid for this. And then there's a state store, which is where you could buy booze. And I know that they would get cheap wine. And I know headed back down through the forest, when he was near the road, he was struck by a car. So he was in the hospital for a long time. So I happened to go there to visit, and I went to the hospital to see him. And when I saw him, I didn't even recognize him because he looked physically different because he had been, I shouldn't laugh, but I didn't even know that was him because he was so cleaned up. Before he was like with no shirt, and just jeans and usually barefoot and whatever, and it's unusually a face that you never saw before. But I know nobody had a face like his. See, the features sometimes on the native the features are astounding. He had the astounding features. So I passed by this bed and I saw the face. I said, that looked like him, but that can't be him. He's 20 shades lighter in his skin. And I said, that doesn't look like him. Right. So I went to the front and I said, that room, excuse me, I said, the room you sent me to, that's not my uncle. I said, the face looks like him, but there's something wrong. So they said, no, that's him. Wow. So I went back and I walked in and I addressed him, and it was him. And I said, oh my God, you look so different. Well, he had been out of the sun because the sun used to turn him purple black. Wow. And so his coloring was different. He was all cleaned up. He's in the hospital gear, wear. And he asked for the lunch menu. So when they went to get the lunch menu, he had to go into his drawer for something. Because I noticed that he didn't order sugary stuff. And I said, oh, wonderful, wonderful. He had to go into his drawer for something. I looked in his drawer. He had 1,000 pieces of candy in his drawer. He had, I don't know how he got I guess people were bringing it to him. We'd asked them to go to the machine and get, his drawer was loaded with candy. Wow. And I said, oh, you little cheat. I said, you are eating sugar.
So
anyway,
it seems like sugar is
a connecting,
connection there.
Oh yeah, I'm positive that it has something. My mother, when I used to, if I got hungry for candy or something, I'd say, oh God, my mother has all the best candy in the world. I would go by her house and go to the cabinet and I would get candy.
What is your position? I know, growing up, we always saw Native Americans passing a peace pipe. And I always thought my mother always smoked cigarettes, tobacco. What do they usually pass around, and what is your stance on tobacco?
Tobacco is sacred. It's not the way it's being demonized today. And you hear people say tobacco, this, that, and the other. Among the natives, tobacco is still it's a sacred herb, and it's used for ceremony.
Morgana Speakslow dedicated a poem to two young men who she acquainted a while back and who were afflicted with a disease that was prevalent in the 80s called AIDS. She titled her poem, Two Men and Others Like Them. And this is my conversation with her, where she leads up to the reading of her poem, Two Men and Others Like Them.
Oh, so that one is a dedication to Clyde Williams
and Bern Camp.
And who were they?
They were two. They were gay, and they were my dearest friends. And I met them in a music program because it was in the days of President Johnson. He was creating the Mighty Society, or whatever he called it. I forget now. It was the Great Society. Okay, and it was going to be a really good thing. And I got a job as a musician for the summer. What they had done, they hired a lot of musicians, pianists and stuff like that